Welcome, everyone. We are about to start our last evening in this virtual education seminar of FEIF in cooperation with Horses of Iceland. I am Dísa, or full name Herdís Reynisdóttir, and I'm your host tonight, or at least as long as the connection allows. I have to warn you that I'm talking from Ireland, as I said, my little farm here on the west coast of Ireland called Hestakot. And we are experiencing a storm once again. So possibly this storm might cause some internet problems or even electricity cutout. So just if that happens, then Mette Manseth will take over. So nothing to worry about. Maybe it might even be more exciting. So we'll see anyway what happens. Tonight we have 5 experts from various fields within our horse world. And we're going to have a panel discussion. We have representatives from the Trainers Association, FT. We have a representative who from the veterinary area, you could say, a leading expert in horse welfare in Iceland, a representative from the horse tourism, and also from the breeding sectors as well as the sports sectors. And this is going to be super exciting evening, I have no doubt. I'm going to introduce you all here, and let's see. First, in alphabetical order, Atli Guðmundsson. Will you raise your hand, Atli? Show us. There you are. Atli is the representative from FT, or Icelandic Trainers Association. He is one of our most experienced riding instructors. He travels for the world to teach for over 3 decades and has an impressive collection of prizes from the competition track as well. Atli has run his own training centers for quite a long time, I believe, and has mentored several young and promising riders through the years, both in his stable, but as well, of course, as a teacher. At the moment, he is living in Hólar and working there as a teacher at the University of Hólar. Then we have Bjarni Páll Vilhjámsson. Raise your hand. Here we go. He runs the horse travel company Riding Iceland, that has the main base at Saltvík by Húsavík, and that's in the northeast of Iceland. Bjarni's company celebrated 30 years in the business last year, and Bjarni himself has probably traveled more than most Icelanders, or about 2,000 kilometers each summer. That's quite a bit. He has thought a lot about what kind of horses are best suited for this work and has developed an enormous experience through the years in selecting good travel horses. Welcome, Bjarni and Atli. And then we have Dr. Elsa Albertsdóttir. Raise your hand, please. Elsa is there. Elsa is a specialist in horse genetics and breeding, and she has managed all the blood calculations for Icelandic horses for almost 20 years and has been very active within the breeding sector as a breeding judge, scientist, supervisor for PhD and master students, and not the least as a breeding leader of Iceland for the past 3 years. Elsa is also educated as a riding instructor and always teaches a bit, as well as breeds and trains her own horses. Then here we have Hulda Gústafsdóttir. Raise your hand. Hulda is in FEIF sport committee and well known in the sports fields as well as other fields. She has many hats, as sometimes we say. She's a sport judge herself, but also a very experienced and successful competition rider with a huge collection of prizes from national and international tournaments. She runs, along with her family, the horse center Árbakki Hestvit, which is a breeding farm, training and sales center, as well as export company. And Sigríður Björnsdóttir, Dr. Sigríður Björnsdóttir, raise your hand, please. Here we go. Last but not least, Sigríður is the head of the horse veterinary in Iceland and has managed the health inspection of competition horses in all big horse events in the last 2 decades. Sista, as she is often called, is also a very respected scientist and has published over 30 scientific papers about health and welfare of our Icelandic horse. She also breeds horses at Kálfstaðir, Hjaltadalur, and travels most summers with her family as well extensively. Welcome, everybody. This will be super exciting. Now we're going to start by each one of you going a little bit through what sits with you from these last 4 evenings, what you took with you, if there is something specific that talked to you, specifically. And take a few minutes just going through that a bit. And if that's okay, Atli, are you ready to start?
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to be here. and thanks for to have this event to talk about horses this way, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm here for the Training Association of Iceland, FT, and it's in the law of FT. The first law of FT is to develop better climate and better training for horses and get a better environment. So this is in the law of FT to do this, what we are doing now. So I'm happy that we are doing it. What these 4 lectures we have been looking at, lot of answers, but also a lot of questions. But the main thing in this for me is that we have open discussions. Just by starting these discussions, we did start to, when we start to think about it, then we start to think about our environment. Is there something in here, in school, in how we hold horses, how we compete on horses? Is there something that is in, what we can say, in a gray area or not so good? Or we have developed these years. I've been training horses and involved with horses. It's nearly 40 years now. We have accomplished a lot. It has changed a lot. What we did 35 years ago, it looks stupid today. But it's also stupid to think that we stop here. We are going to get better ways to do it. And we will probably laugh after 30 years what we are doing today. So I see that this is, the knowledge starts to be better. We need more resource. We need to get more education. The most difficult thing is that we need to get more education out, because when welfare of horses is not good, usually it's because of lack of education, that you don't know better. What we did 30 years ago, it looks stupid today, is because of lack of what I didn't know. But now I know better. That's why this is the reason that this is very important. Have open discussions and find out what is a good welfare of horses. That is also what I got out of the lecture. This is what Mikael wake me up for, to say, look at myself, look at my environment, look at how we are doing this. Maria, very interesting, unbelievable knowledge about getting better diagnosed on lameness. This is a problem in many places, that one veterinary said that and others say this. If you get a better diagnosis, super. What Svenni and Guðrún was talking about, that when she was talking about the weight of the rider and horse. So I'm brought up with that 120 kilo person can ride the 300 kilo horses. And that was just what I got used to. But today I see something different. I see it differently. But we have talked about, I travel around the world and say, I always talked about, yeah, he is so strong, the Icelandic horse is so strong, but we didn't have any knowledge about it. We just said it was strong. And he has managed all these years, but it's really nice that we get more information, then we can say a little bit more about it. And then Svenni, of course, welfare of horses, or your environment is so, there's okay to do this there, but it's not okay to do it there. This is your culture, what your riding culture or just other culture. That, like we saw the picture from this, what was for Egypt, that Svenni showed us of the horse that in our world was really skinny, or the riding system of American saddle breed. We say, oops, if the American comes to Europe and look at riding school, everybody hanging in the horse's mouth, they say this is not good for horses and so on. So this is also a culture. Open discussion. And there are some things that we are doing, that we know we are doing, that are on a gray area. Discuss that and find a solution. And maybe we have to change. That's all for now. Okay.
Thank you so much, Atli. It's certainly a lot of food for thoughts from all of these evenings. Bjarni Páll, do you want to be next? You're so lucky to have these alphabetical beginning of the alphabet names, so you always get to start, don't you? We can't hear you, Bjarni. You might need to unmute you.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
All right.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you, Disa, and all included in making this happen, this seminar. It's been really interesting to follow up the promotions. And Atli came on a lot of topics that I totally agree with, in the importance of keeping up the discussion and educate in every way possible. Michael, when you talked to me, Disa, in the autumn about taking part in these discussions, I had never heard about this topic, social license to operate. So it was interesting that it's something that is really going on, and the promotion from Michael was very interesting, and he put this very well in and showed us in the beginning this photos of the bullfighting and so on. So that wakes you up. This is what everybody sees is not acceptable, and this might just be coming into our world with the Icelandic horses. In general in the horse world, but of course we are focusing on maybe here to more the Icelandic horse world. But it makes you think a lot, and there are some yellow lights obviously blinking, and we have to take the discussion and lead it if possible. So we are not like left behind. We have to be ready to discuss and do better what's possible wherever we find the red flags or the yellow flags to step in a little bit and see what we can do better if the discussion is going into some directions we don't like or we know are not correct. We can correct and we can educate and take part in a discussion. Marie, she was talking about the lameness in horses mainly, and it was really interesting to see her tools to figure out even horses that you don't visibly see that are lame. You can detect with these methods possible pain. And that's quite amazing, and it will be interesting to follow up. Came to my mind actually when we always talk about the Icelandic horse as the toughest of them all. We have an old saying or a quote from the sagas. I like to tell stories on my tours in general, and especially from the sagas. And we have one saga that says, an old Viking said, "Eigi mun ég haltur ganga meðan báðir fætur eru jafn langir," means I will not walk lame as long as my legs are even. He said with a huge wound on his leg. And this came to my mind a little bit, when we see our tough little horses, and they are not, they hide it, possibly if they can, they are tough, they go on. And we think we have all the vision, we think we are perfected in figuring out if something is wrong or not, but possibly it's not so. So there is something we have to be taken in the discussion and look better for. Of course, my interests lay a lot where Guðrún was discussing. She is talking about the horse of the amazing athlete that the Icelandic horse is, or the horses in general. It was interesting to see all the informations about oxygen uptake, etc., which is like super in horses, and seems to be with Icelandic horses even at some higher level on some parts. and the research on the weight-bearing ability of horses. Even for my special interest, it looks like this little research they did on horses from trail riding as seem to have some even more capacity to carry. That's some ideas that I cope with a lot. They are maybe even more strong than normal riding horses, if you can say so. The trekking horses that are on the run all summer. So a lot of interesting things, and Sveinn actually brought it all together in his promotion, communicating with horses. That's what we are all doing wherever we are in the industry. Riding, teaching, competing, breeding, trail riding, whatever. It's a communication with horses, and a lot of topics there also that would be interesting to discuss tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bjarni. Yeah, there is a lot of things to consider as well, and you as a professional horse traveler, you could say. I'm sure we'll get back to that discussion later on. Elsa Albertsdóttir, do you want to take over? Welcome.
I don't want to take over, but I will give some presentation.
Well, share with us your view. Thank you.
Well, from my point of view, of course, I'm a horse person. And what is a horse person? That is, I think, when you breathe and live horses. And I think that breeding horses is to live and breed horses. I come here as what did you call me in your presentation? A breeding judge, but also a breeding leader, former breeding leader of the Icelandic horse in Iceland. Also a researcher. I've been training horses and showing horses, both competing and on breeding field assessments. And I think that the core here, the group of interest for me is the horse. It is not the breeders, it is not the riders, it is not the owners, it is the horse. And I think that is really important, that we are trying to breed a horse that is capable of our goal, and that is a riding horse. That is to bear a person and doing a great performance on the track. And of course, I think this is those presentations that have been here, great presentation by Michael Weishaupt, and then of course by the followers. And they have raised a lot of questions that I think that we really have to try to respond to and answer without the side effects of breeders and riders and the economics of the horse population. Breeding is, of course, economics. Breeding is economics in the way that we are trying to breed a horse that is capable of doing the goals that we have decided upon, and that is a riding horse. And we have been trying for the last decades really hard, I think, and with a very critical mind to change not the breeding goal, but how we are going to accomplish the breeding goal. How the horse is better accomplished to bear a rider and to perform in the best way. And our focus has been on performance. But also along the way of this gaining the best performance of the horse, we have actually produced, in combination of all breeders, riders and judges, a horse that is more capable of doing the project that we have been asking him for. but we have a lot of windows that we can do it better. We have a lot of, we have a great research on our horse that has been used in the development of the breeding goal, but we can still combine and correlate or make the relationship between the different information that we get. We gather a lot of information on breeding shows. We gather a lot of information on veterinarians. We gather a lot of information from sport. We gather a lot of information from trail riding, but we don't combine them. And that is something we really have to open our minds for. And we have this amazing database, Worldfinger, that needs updating and so forth, and more economics to thrive. But there we have this combination that we have this ground of combining those different data. If we are only able or want to open them up, we have a lot of data from breeding field tests open in Worldfinger, but unfortunately not as much from the sport. We would have to gain a lot more there. Unfortunately, not as much as we have to from the veterinarians. And there we have a lot of relationships or correlations to open up and do more development for our horse breed. So this is, me as a breeding judge, I'm not judging a performance of a pair. I try to judge the performance of the horse. And that is always the core. And that is while I'm saying the group of interest for me is the horse, and the enormous genetic progress that we have been seeing in the Icelandic horse is not only because we are breeding better horses, because we are, breeding better riders. They are actually fitting better the horse and performing better on the horse. So a combination between a better horse in conformation, better performing, and a rider that treats the horse better. That is why we have such a great genetic progress in our breed. And the sky is the limit.
Thank you so much, Elsa. The sky is the limit. That is so true. And like Atli was pointing out as well before, what we did only 20 years ago seems stupid today. A lot of the things. It's actually the development is so fast. And great point that we need to combine more all of this knowledge from all the different fields. Hulda Gústafsdóttir, you're next up. You can take over or you can just contribute, whatever you like.
I'd like to contribute. Well, I thought all of those 4 lectures were very, very interesting, and opening up this discussion of social license to operate is the first step to keep our social license to operate, which is not guaranteed in our ever-changing world. I first heard the lecture from Michael Weishaupt about social license to operate, and first heard about this idea in Sweden last year. Norway, no, Sweden. I'm mixing up. Where were we? Norway. And now he adds more to it. Stockholm. The year before that, we were in Norway. We are visiting so many nice countries in the sport committee and in the FEIF, so that's a real privilege. Well, and now he adds more to this, and this is very important nowadays in our society. I found many things in his lecture and Dr. Sveinn Ragnarsson's lecture related in the way how our boundaries, limits, have moved through the years. The things, as Atli said here before, we found normal 20 to 30 years ago, we don't accept anymore. We can see this clearly by looking at videos no older than Landsmót and World Championships than 10 or 15 years back. Then we can very clearly see the difference in breeding, in riding and riding style. And Sveinn pointed out this, how important the interaction between humans and horses are for people. And this is a very, very big point for us to take into account when we are planning to keep our license to operate. The diagnosis of lameness, I find a very, very interesting topic. As a horse seller through the years, we have very often had this topic. Thanks to Maria Rodin for very good introduction of this topic. We know this very well from our experience from selling Icelandic horses, being checked by people unfamiliar with the gaits. They have very often big problems when the horses go lateral in diagnosing lameness, and how the gaited horses very often show asymmetry being launched at the circle. But I agree with Mette Manset when I hear her talk about this as a tool in training. We can measure here how well or not well we are training our horses in measuring if the asymmetry is improving or getting worse. But also a valid question, when is a lameness in symmetry and vice versa? And that is not for me to diagnose, but for the vets who are working on it. And the studies about weight and horses are also very important, explained very well by Sigríður Stefánsdóttir. When marketing the Icelandic horse on the continent in the 50s and 60s, we were discussing exactly what we hear again now, that we are too big and heavy for our Icelandic horses. And then we had even smaller horse than we have now. And as with all the topics, it's not enough to say this has always been like this, and this horse has carried us Icelandic people all over Iceland for decades or for hundreds of years, thousands of years. But we need the science to help us prove this and to be able to say to our critics, this is okay, and keep on doing so. So I would like to thank Atli for organizing this very, very interesting sequence of lectures, and I'm very excited to see how this discussion goes this evening. There was some point I think I am. Yeah, I just wanted to add that science is the most important thing in prolonging our social license to operate. To keep us being allowed to be together with our great horse and not less at least important our Icelandic horse, which is smaller than many breeds that we are competing with. But thank you, and looking forward to answering your questions.
Thank you so much, Hulda. Absolutely, so many interesting points there, and I'm already so excited about all this discussion. Sigríður Björnsdóttir, now I think it's your turn. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dísa. And I would first say I'm very happy for this platform and that we have started this discussion. It hasn't been that much previously, but in my opinion, and so I'm very happy for that. And as you said, I'm representing the authorities here and have been working on it for 30 years actually this year, and including supervision of the health of the competition and the breeding horses as horses in general here in Iceland. I'm very, yes, I just want to say that these 4 lectures were great, and a lot of thanks to the lectures. and leave me with a lot of reflections. And my main thing is actually the same as Elsa said, because we have a lot of information, valuable information, but there is something about putting them together that is not working. So we are looking too separately at things. And as I'm a veterinarian, as I see it, I see the health problems as the outcome variable, final outcome variable for many of the studies and what we are doing, and also thinking about more kind of long-term studies of how our horses cope up with their use. So we have to build up knowledge and get so much better overview and put it together. And I have to inform you that during this competitions and show, there are a lot of remarks on the limb health of the competition and even breeding horses, indicating strain. And although they are not directly lame, we also know that now, of course, that it's not that easy to detect low-grade lameness and do it correctly. And I just want to put in here that there is a doctoral student here in Iceland working on this, in particular on Icelandic horses, because the tool Maria presented are the slide are still developing it for the Icelandic horses, because as she told you that it is in particular difficult to just see the lameness in Icelandic horses because of compensatory mechanisms that the Icelandic horse are relatively easy, can put in to cope with it. So this, yes, we used to say that the horses are hard and they tolerate pain very easily, but we have not been good in seeing it. I have to say so. We have not been good in listening and understanding their language. So a very big part of it is there. But the language are often, they are on a kind of small limits. It's not that easy to do it. So I'm very, very happy that we are developing tools to measure and make objective evaluations of the gaits. So, and it makes it much easier to understand it. But the final way to prove it is to yes, you measure it and then you find out a horse is lame on one limb, and then you manage to give injections with local anesthetics, and it disappears, and you see the movement become clean again. That is the thing we are working on a big research project here in Iceland now. So the further development of this tool, especially for the Icelandic horse, is very, very valuable. And great thanks to Maria, who is yes, working on this with us here in Iceland. But just on palpation of the yes, ligaments and tendons, we can understand that quite many of the competition's horses are they know about the strain. And talking about to put together things, because Guðrún presented this very, very interesting studies that she has made, and where she has found these high levels of blood lactate in the working horses in the in the breeding test, which is it's a pretty hard test, of course, but still it's very, very high levels. And probably it is, of course, necessary sometimes for the horses to work on anaerobe metabolism, for example, in pace or whatever. But it is on the same time very obvious that they can't continue working with these high levels, because the lactate has a huge impact on the muscle cells and will result in muscle fatigue, that they're just too tired to take to do the work, and the load will end very much up on the ligaments and tendons. So if the muscles are not working correctly, then the muscles and tendons will take the load in much bigger degree than they are meant to do. And actually we have a lot of indications from the veterinary checks at Landsmóts, for example, that really indicates that this is happening. So it's most likely happening, but we of course need to study. One of the things that we need to study so much better and so much more. And the missing link, because in my opinion, there is a missing link there. And my working theory is that it's the larynx. It's not often mentioned that the larynx is the limiting factor of airflow to the lungs, and thereby it's a limiting factor of the oxygen in the body. And we have actually a lot of research, although not on Icelandic horses directly, that tell us that the head and neck positions have a lot to do with the width of the larynx. So there's a reason to believe that we are letting our horses work in a head and neck position where we have some limitations of airflow to the lungs. This is called functional obstructions of the upper respiratory system. I think also we have some indication of that in results already presented in the recent weeks. Both there's one small study here that Guðrún presented, but also the difference between competition horses and the horses we use for more free riding. Because as we have all experienced, we can use them quite a lot and for quite a long distances. But at the track, we have to give them break to breathe after some few rounds. So, and I think the most urgent studies actually are on the breathing, on the larynx, and all of this function of the upper respiratory, and how we are affecting that. And actually, although we can see here a clear effect of the rider, which we have to keep in mind in how we design our competition, in my opinion, because that the ratio will not change that very much, because then we will exclude most of our riders. But knowing that we are keeping on with this relatively high ratio between rider and a horse, we should absolutely think about other things that are making it so difficult for our horses, and how we can make the tests easier for them to cope with. And I think there are a lot of possibilities to do, but but the important thing is to keep all information together and see the relationship between those things. And best of all would be to be able to have this overground endoscope to actually see and measure the larynx under work. So there are so many things happening in the worldwide that we also can have help from and get information from. Although a lot of things are also rather specific for our horse and our way of yes, our competitions. But I think there are always possibilities to improve it for the well-being of the horse without losing anything, because I think it's our future will absolutely rely on it, that our competitions will be accepted worldwide. And we have to work on it. We have to take the steps. Okay, small steps, and also about all this communication, educations. It doesn't help if we don't manage to take the results and out, and how we cope with it, how we work on it, how we improve, make improvements. We have to talk about it. We have to discuss it, and we have to thereby educate people and have this conversation with people. Absolutely, very important. So I think I have already said more than I was meant to do, but this is my input and my reflections after those days. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Sigríður. Super interesting. Just to clarify, larynx, you're talking about what in Icelandic we call barkakýli.
Yes.
Which is often in English also referred to as the Adam's apple, just to clarify for basically, yes. So if I understand that correctly, it is a limiting factor in the oxygen intake. How can we see it? Just to elaborate a little bit, how can you see that a horse is struggling with this?
There are studies now that tell us that horses with if they have respiratory sounds, they most likely are struggling a bit. Horses that are not swallowing, they are struggling because they don't have time to close trachea to swallow.
So if you see saliva, basically.
Yes, so there are nice studies on this, and all these things are something we see in our both competitions and breeding shows. So there is a field there that we have to go into, and we see this less in free riding. So there's a question: is how we can what are the anatomical possibilities for the Icelandic horse? To what kind of head and neck position actually is good for it? I think we have to ask about it, because we can't keep on riding horses that are working anaerobically and are getting lactate in the muscles. They will get fatigue and they will end up as horses with problems in their necks. Sorry to say, but that is what happens.
So if I stand correctly, like the study that Guðrún was talking about, where they were looking into the lactic acid threshold at tour horses, and now I think Bjarni's ears perk up. So remember that perhaps, where she seemed to find that the lactic acid threshold was higher at those tour horses than compared to, competition horses, or she was of course specifically looking at a lot of breeding horses, which are young and maybe not in their full physical capacity already. But you think perhaps that might be a big factor in this, that the tour horses might not be put in a specific head and neck position, but maybe more ridden freely, as you say.
I think it's absolutely necessary to take this factor into the research and into the studies, because it will have direct effect if larynx will getting smaller in a way. This is already the smallest diameter in the system. So we can learn that from studies from other breeds that will have this effect. And so this is an absolutely thing that we should take into the studies. And over long term, I think if we get better overview of now with new research methods to the health of the first signs of problems in ligaments and tendons, that would be incredibly valuable for us, because we are losing too many horses due to that. And we have to be able to identify those problems much easier, much earlier, and to prevent problems. And of course, you always work on the preventing things like this. My goal.
I'm sure there is a individual difference there as well, just physically, anatomically. Elsa, would you think that we are maybe not putting enough emphasis on the factor of how easy the horse maybe carries themselves? Like, just as a horse person myself, I find that some horses, just from the very start, they seem to be so easy to be in kind of rounded, nice, easy shape and light in the mouth, and just kind of naturally fall into a position where it seems like you don't need to help them much, and others maybe not. What do you say about that? Is that a factor we need to look more in?
Of course. And I think actually we have been looking into this for the latest years. And we can actually see that that horses that have a specific conformation are more easily getting higher scores. And that is, I think we can assume that they are then carrying the rider with more ease, performing at better or at higher level. So I think that holds in hand. But what I think we would also have to, I mean, we have those measurements of height of withers and height of back or the back line. That is the difference between the height of group and the lowest point of the back line, and how the back line is. That we have the lowest point in the what do you say, in the lowest point, that the lowest point of the back is in balance, not too much towards to the front of the back. So we have a high front back. So the horse is more capable of actually carrying the rider without being put in any position that the rider has to put the horse in. That the position of the horse is more natural, being able to carry the rider and also then perform. So I think this holds in hand. And then, of course, we have just detected SNPs or single nucleotide peptides that are controlling this height of the front of the horse, length of the legs, and how equally conformed the group is, that the pushing power of the horse is more naturally carried through the body of the horse carrying the rider. So I think we have gained this from measuring the horses, but we have a little bit, what do you say, tvíblaða sverð. Yeah, we have a
double-sided sword.
Yeah, that cuts on both sides. That the date for breeding is really important, that the horse shows up really early in the development, because the data that we are gaining there, we want it to be as much as genetics and as least environmental. But of course, this is also a welfare issue, that the horse is able to perform in this way. But then our responsibility, all of us, riders, judges, breeders, owners, that we don't make breeding assessment into competition. And that is, we are way too far into that. So breeding assessments have become a way too much economical thing, where you are actually putting a price label on the horse based on the performance. So we are exceeding the horse's natural performance, and that is not good, because we want to see the horses as soon as possible. That is really a vital trait, and as a preliminary thing, we had this research, me and Heiðrún Sigurðardóttir, and we actually saw that early development of horses has a high heritability. So horses with a certain conformation is more able to conform or perform at breeding field assessments. And then we are not going into 0.3 or 0.5 dots or anything that are making different price labels on horses. But the second thing is also really important. Even though we want to put our mares as early as possible, the good ones, into breeding, then we also want to assess the developmental trait of the horse. How good can it be with more correct training? But of course, then we have the competition data. If we can get that into the breeding evaluation system, that is to say the BLAP, the genetic evaluation system. But then we have this competition trait that we can actually see how good the horses are as an early developmental, because that is really economical, but also how they can develop and perform on a higher level of training, but of course in a positive relationship with the horse's welfare.
So do I understand that correctly? Like if we manage to take finally all the sport data into our breeding system, as in into the blood calculations, etc., if we manage to get it more accessible in that way, then that is more maybe possible to use the competition data as the price giving type of a thing, and we can manage to separate a little bit better and just have the breeding evaluation a bit apart from this competition thinking, as you say, that it is
not apart, but we can actually see how they so highly correlate, actually, that the early developers, they actually are giving the best sport competition horses, and that is just proven by scientific data. If people want to hear about this scientific proof that has been already since 2010 been available.
That's hugely important. Absolutely.
That's
Did
really
I understand
important.
you correctly? You were mentioning as well the genetic sequence or parts of genes that we already have indications for that decide something about the back and the carrying capacity. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Heiðrún Sigurðardóttir, she has been studying this, and I have been acting as a supervisor there, and we have actually been finding out those SNPs, and we can. And this is also about the information. I mean, we have a lot of information from veterinarians that we can combine to the health of the horse, the longevity of the horse, the durability of the horse, that is actually in the breeding goal, but it's not, it is not reached enough in the data as for now. So we would like to combine those data from veterinarians. I mean, what is the measurements of the horse, for example, that gets lame, or the circumference of the cannon bone, for example, like Michael has been addressing, that is also about the carrying ability and stuff like that. So we need to have the actual data, the phenotypical data, but then we have a lot of, we have a technique now that we can gather genomic data, like SNPs that are controlling genes, that are controlling backline, the front height of the horse, the carrying ability of the horse, the gaiting ability of the horse. We just have to be able to, or want to, address this. I have been mentioning this in for like 3 years, and I haven't had the audience about this.
We're all here now. No.
Yeah, but
Well,
I mean, we could read the genome of the horse so much more than we do today, and really use it for breeding better horses as a riding horse. We're breeding a riding horse able to perform under a rider that is carried. And I mean, we have to address that or we just have to change our goals.
Well, I mean, of course, we need to keep discussing this. Bjarni, so I throw the ball over to you a bit. When you look at your experience with what horses perform best in your business, that I mean, I know from experience that sitting on some of your horses that have been running for 2,000 kilometers over the summer, they seem to be able to tolt in a fair good speed for like 2.5 hours without a break, and not even blowing hard at all when you could get down. Like, how do we get that? Like, why is that possible? What is your experience? What kind of horses do this work the easiest way?
Well, that's a pretty big question. But if I just talk out of my experience, this is no scientific improvements or nothing like that, you know. But in general, it's always been a big interest of mine to actually figure out how to build up exactly what you're talking about, this stamina, this carrying ability to go on and tolt. And this is actually, in my opinion, when I'm selecting horses for my business, I can say when I started 30 years ago, it was more or less collection of all kinds of working horses from farmers and horses from friends and family that we used for this, at that time, short period of the tours, maybe 6 weeks a summer. I was then working as a full-time teacher, school teacher, and it was just my summer job. And when I went all into this business 10, 12 years ago, I decided to I wanted to have my own herd of trekking horses. I like to use that word, not tour horses. I like this word, trekking horses, and build them up because I had also figured out those horses that I really was keeping through the years. They somehow grew. They somehow, like the end of the season, and they get a break whole winter. Normally, you know, you take them in the spring and start riding, and they seem to have lost so little form. And it was always amazing me. How is this possible? My experience then, when I have now just my herd and I have not sold a horse for years, they're precious for me, these horses. I could sell them all many times, some of them at least, to my customers. But anyway, but my thoughts were, you know, you build them up carefully. In general, young horses, you don't take horses on tours, tougher tours, younger than 8-year-old. So they get time to advance and train, just jogging with the herd on tours when they are 6, 7, running. ridden very little, easy legs on flat land, for example. And like with this, and then also when we start in the spring, we start on the easier tours. It's all like training a marathon runner, you know, or athlete or a mountain climber. And somehow they build up stamina and muscles that in the end of the season, of course, they lose something over the winter. But this, I believe my theory is they also start next spring on a little bit higher level than they started the spring before, you understand, you know. So this is just my thoughts and about how we can build this up, because as you say, it is quite impressive how much stamina they have, and it keeps them going. They keep on going. They are at the peak of their form, maybe in August, you know, and but keep it then through the season. And about what kind of horses genetically, so you know, this is my feeling is you can train almost every horse into this, but in general we look for the horses that have this old-fashioned look a little bit, you know. They have a broad back, they have broad breast, and that's just somehow more ability to gain muscles than the thinner types that feel like a broomstick to ride, you know. So this is maybe the best basis for training and building up a great trekking horse. So in general.
Yeah, very interesting. Atli, would you have like a specific type, for instance, when you look at a young horse that you're starting training, do you have an idea already from the beginning, like this conformation, this particular individual is going to be, it's going to carry me easily, or it's going to, you know, be easier?
Yeah, I think so. It's but it is a little bit, you know, I think every horseman has his own. I have a little bit from my experience of this type of horse was a little bit Sokol for Sunnukol, a little bit Ormur, and a little bit that, and I see a young horse that is a little bit these types that I have been successful with, that I like. So it's a little bit individual. We could say this happily it is so. We cannot all be in love with the same girl. So it can be a little bit different between rider and rider. This I was successful with this type of horse and not with another. And I often see high-judged horses that I don't like. Very high-judged horses that I say, oh, I've seen this before and I've trained this before. It has never worked for me. So that I also see. But this is also the beauty of horsemanship. You are allowed to have your own opinion about things. But about what Sigríður and Elsa was talking about, this confirmation, or Elsa was talking about the confirmation, I agree on many things of that. But about this neck position, head neck position, we could say 30 years ago, we did not form the horse in tusk. That was so. It comes with classical riding. We started to form the German riders in the World Championship or the European Championship, what is called that. They form the horse in trot, gallop, walk, trot, and gallop, but they ride tusk like we did, with their nose up, a high neck position, low back, and that is not so long time ago that was. We did argue about that in general meetings of FT, if we should form the horse in tusk or not. And there was a big discussions about this. And now everybody agree that in sport riding, we should form the horse in tusk. Everybody agree on that. If we want to ride competition, we should form the horse in tusk so we get ready to carry. But with this forming in tusk, we did also get really bad form, actually worse form than high neck position with the nose up. And that is maybe something that I would like to discuss with you, Sigríður, later on, is this a part of it? It's too high neck position, but give in. And we are the only countries in the world that talks about neck position or head position so much. Every other country talk about form, all body. It's the whole body. It's not head position. No dressers people talk about head position. They talk about the form, the whole body. That's important, not the head. So do you understand me? That's what I wanted to say about it. Of course, there is a you see, we call it to be like a riding horse. You see the part of the horse is suitable for each other. You see that he can carry. You see a horse with a long back. Looks like he has a difficulty to carry. Take a longer time. Every trainer is agree on that. Higher horse, longer back. It takes longer time to build up a horse to carry for a competition, at least. My opinion, also.
Thank you so much, Atli. Hulda, what would you say from the point of view, both as a sport rider, judge, and setter, like, would you think that the sport horses generally are in correct position? And if not, where is the fault? Like, in what direction, or in all directions? And secondly, as a export person, you're selling lots of horses, you're exporting lots of horses. Do you have like a specific type that seems to be the easiest for the market, that everybody are looking for? And has that anything to do with this, what we're talking about, shape or form, or is it more some other traits there?
These were like 5 questions in one. Thank you, Dísa.
Well, you'll deal with them in 3 minutes, correct?
Yes.
No.
Of course.
Take it away. You have some time.
About the form of the sport horses, and this is a big discussion. I was actually quite happy to see one of the results of Guðmundsdóttir results, that she was getting out of her research that a horse that is going in a rather low position with the neck and head had a better functional body and spent less energy than a horse which was ridden too high to compare with. I was really happy about that, because we have been, as a riding instructor and rider, we have been talking about too high head position, or and there it's again really correct what Atli said. We shouldn't be talking about the head or the neck. We should talk about the horse as a whole. And I think we started on that end when we didn't know better. We started talking about the head carriage. That was our problem, and we got the judges even stuck in that a horse with a vertical nose line, that would be the correct head carriage, or the correct body carriage. But as we learn more, we know that is just one tiny part of what we should be looking for. We should be looking for how the whole horse is functioning, and not only how the headline is. And I think we are in a part. We are partly still here. We have a lot of riders who know that this should not be like this, and we are getting away from this only looking at the nose line. You know, I think you understand what I mean. And we are slowly getting to a more correct body position with more education, is my belief. But we are still a little bit stuck there. I think sometimes Michael Weishaupt said it. We write what the judge judge. We show, or the riders, the competition riders, they show what the judges give them high marks for, even sometimes if they know better. And I think we are sometimes a little bit there, that the judges are sometimes a little bit behind the education, at least at the highest level. And that's why we are still seeing too many horses that are just curled down into some kind of head position, but the hindquarters are not working correctly. The back is still down. The stomach muscles aren't working. So I think we are in the middle of the river. But the good thing is, I think we are on the right way. I think we are getting there, and exactly these discussions are slowly getting us there. But we didn't build Rome in one day, and this is a evolution. This is a development that takes time. But if we don't start to talk about it, and if we still think that the vertical nose is the correct answer to everything, all our training problems, then we are still having problems. I think this covers a little bit the question about in my opinion, where we are in training. I think we're on the right way, but we still have to learn, or more people have to learn that this is about the horse as a whole, and not only how the head neck looks like, as Atli also correctly put it. About selling horses, exporting horses, I think there we are. I mean, the horse who has it light to go in a correct body position, not only head neck, but is correctly built. That is easier to ride. That stays longer in a correct position, even without a very strict training. It deforms less easily. So I mean, the horses with a born strong top line, I mean, we are starting or we are trying to breed those horses with a broad back, with a good top line, with good natural top line, with hindquarters that easily can carry and not only push. And those are the horses that everybody wants, but not only the exporting people, also the Icelandic market is looking for exactly those horses. And the mind, that is of course the 1 and 2 and 3. And since you mentioned export, I'd like to mention one thing that has changed dramatically, because we were a little bit talking about what is happening in our field, since I have the word. I started exporting horses in 1989, very, very long ago. And there have been huge changes in the handling of the horses, in the vet controls of the horses, what is allowed, what is done, and I mean, the vet control is for everybody also abroad who isn't familiar with the process, but the horses are checked from an official vet in our stables, and then they are present at the loading at the airport, and then the vet is also present at the unloading in the foreign airport. And the boxes that the horses are transported in, they are also new. They were for a long time renovated. They were for a long time the same, but have now been renovated. For a long time, they were also transported up to 10 or 12 in not even containers, just 3 in the planes. And I mean, we have come a long way, and we are still working. The task or a little bit of my personal task has been the last years is to just take care of that the unridden horses, foals, and young horses who haven't been trained yet, that they get a basic training before being exported. So if I get an order of export of a horse that is born, are 2-3 years old, or even foals, is my next question, is the horse well trained? Because this is a really matter of welfare, that the horse just knows the things and is not over scared and just feels good. And a foal which learns so fast, it doesn't need a very long time. Then it sees everything as curious and fun, and is not afraid and jumping away from everything. So this is really changing. I mean, we had it a few years ago that we had so wild horses, we needed people to put the halter on, and I mean, this was dangerous for everybody involved, the the vets, for us, for the drivers, for on the airports, where even those horses, I mean, we have crazy stories where they got loose on the airports running around. I mean, this is, you know, we can grin about it today, but it's that serious when something happens like this. And I mean, this is a part of the horse welfare thing. So also there are things happening that hopefully help us keep the license to operate.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And I was exactly thinking we'll move on to a little bit of this reflection, like what are we doing in our fields at the moment and what has changed in the horse welfare? And as you put very well, I've heard these stories as well. Yeah, poor things that escaped from the airport and weren't caught for months. I mean, just a question, since you are talking about these youngsters asking if they're halter trained, is that a service that you offer as well? Is that
yes,
maybe a business
do.
idea?
Yes, we actually we do. And most people can do it at home, and from some farms, that's just a part of the service of selling horses. But we have also other kind of sellers that just cannot do it themselves, and then we can offer it. Either we do it ourselves, or we can refer them to trainers who are really experienced exactly in this work. So yes, we can help organize it. Yeah.
Very good. There are a few questions that have been coming in, well, quite a few actually, in the chat. One here from Denise in Sweden, for instance. Well, actually, she's a Swede, but lives in Iceland. And she's curious about the general opinion of the point that Michael Weissap brought up about normalizing less leg lift, maybe less movement in the Icelandic horse. Are we too focused on the leg lifting? We are trying to breed horses with broader back, maybe more weight carrying, etc. But at what point do we want to reward this high leg lifts that we see today? And then Caroline from the Netherlands actually adds on to this question and is wondering, should Sky really be the limit with regarding in this regard, maybe to the breeding, specifically when we're looking into breeding bigger and bigger horses, more and more elegant? Are we at some point getting to a point where this is no longer necessarily feasible? Like, do we want to just go bigger, taller, more elegant, or have we reached maybe a point, in some case anyway, where this is maybe enough? What do you say, Elsa?
Well,
sorry.
Yeah. First, I
just see a couple of hands coming up here, but I'm just going to point it to you first, and then Atli comes after, and then Hulda. Thank you.
Sky's the limit. This is not aimed as that the more is better. That is not that is not the meaning of this. I'm just saying that, I mean, Michael Weissap told us about that we have already come to a point that we have this great athlete, that the breeding of the horse or the horse is at his utmost performance level. That was something he came into. I'm just saying the sky is the limit is about that we have so much more possibility, but just using phenotypic data, we can use so much more, and both in collaboration with input of data. For example, I mean, we are making measurements at breeding field tests to link them to other information. That is reaching higher into the skies. That is not to say that we have a more leg lift is better. We really have to address that point, that what do we want? And I mean, Þorvaldur Kristjánsson made a great study where he was actually looking at the relationship, for example, of stride length, the breast width of the horse, and relating it to performance in tuft and pace and stuff like that. That the more is not always the better. We have to, we just have to base this on scientific data. What is the optimum? And then we have reached the sky.
Exactly.
About also, I wanted to come into, for example, what Bjarni was talking about. What kind of horse does he want to keep? I mean, he was talking a lot about environmental factors, and we cannot breed environmental factors, but we can surely put them into training of the horse. But the breeding goal of the Icelandic horse is to breed a horse that has varied roles that is suitable for different types of riders, different types of roles, leisure riding, sport riding, coming to a breeding assessment. But my general and my true belief is that the best breeding horse is the best sport horse, is the best travel horse or tracking horse. But not all tracking horses are the best breeding horses, and not all breeding horses are the best tracking horses. So, I mean, that is the general breeding goal of our breed, that we are breeding a riding horse that is suitable. And I once worked for a very, very wise man, and he said to me, the main thing about when you take a horse to a training is to choose the acceptable role for the horse. So don't do a good leisure riding horse to the best sport horse. And I think that is the core of the social license to operate, that we choose the correct roles for our horses. But with breeding, we are trying to aim to breed a better horse that is capable of all of those roles. That is the best horse. And we haven't still reached the 10 in the official scale, but we are going towards it in a really fast speed, I think.
And I remember like one point, because they're talking about this more elegance, longer legs, etc. If that's a negatively affecting the robustness. Anyway, I remember that we have also, you have started in the breeding sector to put limits on, like too narrow chests, for instance, cannot reach the highest scores in proportions. So there are already a little bit implemented these kind of thoughts about not too elegant, please, not too skinny, not too thin, not too narrow, etc. So it has to be in proper proportion to each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is like, I mean, then we are just trying to draw the frame around the breeding. And the drawing of this frame is linking different information together, I think. Yeah. I mean, the higher is not the better, but so you catch my point.
And I mean, you know, we will all talk about that as well, but it is great that we have all this versatility in the Icelandic horse. There are different types that suit maybe as well different riders. Atli, next, please. You have your hand up now a long time, even if it's just a virtual hand. It's good to put the microphone on though, Atli. Yes.
Can you hear me now? The question was, is there a limit of high lifting horses? Of course there is. We say young horses, there again, we have to look at the whole picture. Is it a suitable horse? Is it still, can he still carry? Can he still go fast or slow? And can he still have balance? But there is, you can see horses in Iceland, in Icelandic breeding now. There has been so much concentration on high lifting that is horses who comes into riding as a young horses, got the first shoes on, and they go for a long tour, let them run, like Bjarni does with his young horses, let them run with the other horses. They have so much movement and they cannot follow the group. Is this correct? No. In all the time, we had Mother Nature would take care of this problem. They would say this individual will be eaten because he couldn't follow the herd. So this problem is man-made problem. This is, of course, can it be too much? Are we going to start let them lift more and more? What was 2000 is a low movement today. 2006 is there's a low movement. We have to stop. We have to stop somewhere and start to look and value all the things of the whole picture of the horse. How he's feeling, for example. Say, how does he feel when he's doing this? Does he have a pain face, or does he look happy? Or this is welfare, not high movements more. This is my opinion, my own opinion.
Thank you so much.
I have to say that.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Very valid. Absolutely. Hulda, you have your hand up as well here. And you can click your hand again, Atli, to bring it down. Exactly. And then you can start over again. Thank you, Hulda.
Yeah, just very, very shortly. No, I understood Elsa's comment about that the sky was the limit about the knowledge. I mean, there's the sky is the limit, but in the movements, not at all. I think we all agree, and I think everybody riding Icelandic horses agrees. We don't want to go in the saddlebred direction where we have this extreme. I mean, Sveinn Ragnarsson showed us a video of this, and I think we all agree we don't want to go there. And I think even this knowledge of that movements can be too high is also getting more through. I mean, I think also like 20 years ago, I think we were looking very much at these movements, and we were. Now you, Mette, maybe can help me with this. This kind of movements that we call miðflóttaaflshreyfingar, not coming out of the shoulder, but coming out of the. Mette, do you have the word in English for me? As you run away.
I'm trying to think of an English term to describe that, but
yes. This is actually high movements that do not come out of the shoulder, not from the hindquarters, but come through.
They're not supported by muscle stability. It's a bit like hyper mobility, perhaps, that comes from too much suppleness, maybe, in a sense.
Yes,
if I understand you
yeah. And the shoulder being almost too loose, and I think we are slowly getting there, that we want to see the horse as a whole, and with a horse with big movements in front, we want to see that the hindquarters are carrying, and the movements come there out of the hindquarters through the back and into the shoulders. So I am the optimistic type in our, and I believe that we are really all doing our best to improve and learn and educate ourselves and the people around us. And so I think we are at least aware of this problem. And in my opinion, no, the sky is not the limit in movements, not at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hulda. And Sigríður Björnsdóttir, please.
I just wanted to use this moment to thank Dr. Mikael Weishaupt for his studies on the hoof conformation of the Icelandic horse. I think his work was very, very important and resulted in rules for the hoofs for the Icelandic horse. I think I am right for that, isn't I? So, although in my opinion we still allowed to big hoof in some cases, because everything is individual also, and I have seen hoofs on relatively big young horses that are physiologically too big, although they were within the limits. So that was an important step to take, but of course there are limits on what we should aim for at the lifting of the front limbs, and it will, as I said, it is the whole body, as has been mentioned here by so many of you. That is the whole thing. You have to look at the whole body's form, otherwise you end up in wrong things, both with the legs lifting of the legs, and also with the form of the horse. So this is everything in combination, and that is actually what we have to look into even better. But I know there are improvements, and I'm not saying it was better 30 years ago at least, but we often have tendencies to it is not that easy to end on the right path there. So we have to do it step by step. But what we have to do is to reconsider things. It's very important. And what we have to do, especially, is to find out what is the limiting for the horses to keep on going as a sport horses or whatever. What is ending their career? We don't have good enough data on that. In most other countries, there are lameness and things related to the locomotor system that are the most common in all studies abroad that are ending their career or reducing it. So I guess it's here also, but it would be interesting to see it. And if it's the distal limbs, therefore it is very often the distal limb. And then you have to think, how can that happen? Why is it always a distal limb? It is probably because of the tension going to the ligaments and tendons, because of the muscles that they don't cope with it, because they are with too much lactate, they are too tired, and therefore it ends there. And it doesn't help for a horse to be big and strong and whatever if it doesn't get oxygen. The muscles are not able to work without oxygen. So if you can find a way for our horses, we have to find a way in our sport and whatever to have a nice looking, excellent horse with an excellent airflow. And then I will feel good.
That's a very good point. It's good to have some oxygen. Hulda, you want to comment on this?
No, actually not. I just got a point that these are leg movers against back movers. Just to put the words. Yes. It just didn't come to my mind. But thank you. Sorry. Keep on.
And Elsa, you have your hand up as well. You wanted to comment on that, please. We need the microphone on.
Yep. Now you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I mean, not only to address what Sister was telling, but I think we have to have a general agreement of what we want to have our horses for. I think we have to have a general agreement also on the frame, for example, of horses that are going. I mean, where do we have to seek the social license to operate? As for now, I'm working from the breeding judge's point of view. Hulda is from breeder and exporters, and also showing sport horses, and Sister, she's a veterinarian. But I think we have to all have some total agreement. What do we want to have the horse for? And I mean, we have this breeding goal for the Icelandic horse that is really general, but I think is rather well thought through. But still we have those big questions, for example, health, fertility, longevity, that we are not addressing as much. Also, what do we agree upon? How should the horse come into a breeding field test, and what should be okay for the horse to go out of a breeding field test? And then we can discuss how we judge the traits. But I mean, the traits are aimed at for a riding horse, and riding horse that is suitable for different roles. But I think we, in this discussion for the social license to operate, I think different parties have to make some sort of agreement what is okay and what is not okay. And we have to come to a conclusion. We can do all sorts of different research that is just great. They just have to be big enough. And then I have a bit of a criticism of some research that have been shown in this discussion here for the last weeks. They are not statistically significant. So we cannot base on them, but we can base research on sport competition data and those official events like sports and breeding and such. And then we have to also go a little bit beside that. For example, how do we address what is a good tracking horse and what is the frame, what is okay? I mean, we have to come to some frame, some agreement that we are all okay with. I think that is, I mean, we can talk about our goals, we can talk about what is lacking, but I mean, what is the general agreement and general frame?
Thank you, Elsa. Yes, I think also we are very often talking the same words, using the same vocabulary, but we don't necessarily always have the same image behind those terms. And that's not always so easy, I think, to combine. When we talk about just generally, like we have all these, as you say, studies that are fantastic. We have a lot of information, and you both mentioned that, you and Sista before as well, that getting the information together is sometimes lacking. But then my question is also, how do we get the information out there, like to the public? For the first, of course, to horse people, but also even further in a sense, like when we talk about social license to operate, we even need to educate the public, even the non-horse people up to some degree. How can we possibly do this? I see Atli has the hand up, maybe about something different, but go ahead.
I was just
Oh, it seems like you lost the microphone. You started off with it on, and then it seems to be gone.
So, again, now.
That's good.
I was just thinking about what Elsa was saying, that we all have to agree on our breeding goal and so on, and I agree with you. We need to have this discussion, what we are having now, for being together in this. But what I would like to mention a little bit about what Svenni was talking about, your culture, your climate. We look at our horses and see there's been improving a lot from when we started to compete, me and Hulda 40 years ago or more. This changed a lot. We can see it. I did see Íslandsmót 82 in Melgeirsmela yesterday. It was amazing. In Mánagrund, it was amazing. But I was trying to get at, it was Svenni was talking about. We did see the video of this Tennessee Walker horse. Yeah, and we all have opinion about that. We say, did you like it or not? Most of Icelandic people say, wow, weirdo. This is not my world. This is totally stupid. For me, it was not the movement. It was the how much strength that the horse has to do for doing this. It was so difficult. That was, for me, the worst thing. But if we carry on this way we are going, more movements, there will horse people in outside in the big world of horses, go in the computer and say, I like to look at these Icelandic horses. And they look at us and say, wow, weirdo, like we do about the Tennessee Walker. If you look at our horses and try to imagine you're a cowboy in California and look at Icelandic horses, or be someone else and look at ourselves. This is the thing is that we can maybe be home blind people. If you don't look at all the world, all the horses, if you look at all the horses and look at just at us, it's like the beauty queens in Hollywood or whatever, they have Botox and so on. They think they're beautiful, but that is their world. We look at it differently. There is people out there who look at us differently if we don't take care. So there's a warning.
Well, I think that will always be the case, that people out there look at us differently. I mean, we're
yeah, but
somebody said once.
Yeah, but they have it in some kind of frame that is acceptable. There is something. There's some whole picture that is We at least when we started cooperating with HOLAR, the Trainer Association, the foundation was classical riding. Classical riding was the tool for riding, and classical riding has been for centuries, and that's about well care. It's about right body position, right carrying correctly, training system to carry weight. It's all there. So if we follow that and don't go out of that, then we should be okay, or I don't know, hopefully. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Atli. Bjarni, can I just throw the ball to you here for a moment? I know you get a lot of international customers as well to your tours. Do you experience that, like have they all already experienced Icelandic horses, or are some of them maybe completely new to the breed, and do they find us weird? Or is there maybe something else that, that they express getting to know the Icelandic breed and their stamina and how we use them, basically?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure everybody realize in this Icelandic horse world, all the real riders that come for track riding in Iceland from other riders from other breeds. We have on our longer tours, we make demands that people are experienced riders, and they come from all over the world, and but least of them know anything about the Icelandic horse. So it's also for breeders and sellers a big window to, I think it would be a nice research how many Icelandic horse riders have got to know the Icelandic horse through any of the tour riding possibilities in Iceland through the last 20, 30 years, because we just from my side, I know a lot of them that have changed totally they've had some other breeds horses, and they have changed into Icelandic horses and started to take lessons, etc. Sometimes they think it's weird in the beginning, small, and they don't believe they can carry us, And they see me in the front, for example, a pretty grown-up man on my horse, and then they learn, and we talk together, and we inform and discuss these things, and they realize, wow, what kind of animal is this, And so the discussion is more very positive in general. So our horses get a really good reputation in general, and it's also important factor actually that we have in general good tölting horses on these trail rides, so people get to know really like nice Icelandic riding horse, just normal nice tölting horse. And my experience is in general that people really respect our horse and come back. So many that come back for riding. I would like to add a little bit to this because you asked about what we can do for this social license of operates, what can we possibly do better or do? And for example, came to my mind probably no area in this in the horse industry that is as open as an open book. We can say we are live every day all summer because people are taking pictures, videos, and posting right away everything they experience. And luckily, it's normally a good experience. And we see it just as a marketing tool, actually. Wow, that's great. You can use this for selling more tours. But I see it also now as a tool for the social license to operate issue. You can also point that up in the highlands after a long day, a big herd of beautiful, in good shape Icelandic horses grazing and resting and smiling people all around. This tells you there must be all okay with these horses. These people would not be smiling and laughing if the horses were lame or tired or sick. You understand what I mean? This is just a little input in what Michael was talking about. One of the issues we can do better in informing and telling our side if people are doubting anything, for example, regarding trail ridings. Also, just as I have the word, Elsa, a good point, some frame for breeding that fits us all. In general, it's a good point. Things have changed so much in the last 20 years, 40 years, the shape of the horse and so on. As I said before, the preferable horse for trail riding is the normal horse, you can say, the average horse in every way. All the extreme factors are taken out, extreme movements, extreme power. We want this average horse that is good, naturally tilting, nice character, relaxed characters, you know. So in this way, okay, we don't have to worry about it right now. There is enough horses that fall off from the competition market and so that fit perfectly for us. But who knows in 50 years, where are we there? Are all the horses with so much movement that we can't take them on trails? I've had horses with really high movements that I had to almost leave up in the deserts of Sprengisandi because it's a little bit heavy trail. And just the heavy movements made them exhausted. I just took this horse home and never took him on a tour again. So he's fine at home on easy rides and was totally fine. He was just could not make it because of course he is like, you can think about a marathon runner that runs with high leg lifts, 40 kilometers on a marathon. He's not, he's not possibly not going to make it, definitely, but just a little thought. So I don't even remember what was the first question.
Well, we were kind of discussing how maybe people outside of our little bubble see us.
Yeah, exactly.
You get all these different foreigners. So I thought, you were already kind of talking about that.
Yeah, they find it interesting, and I've been taking them sometimes to competitions when we have like days off, and they get to know the gates. Maybe they've never seen a gated horse before. So in general, it's always a very positive, of course, experience and the impressions that you get for our horse.
Thanks for that. There's a question here from Atli Guðmundsson, who lives in Sweden at the moment, but an Icelander. He likes to ask the whole panel, what is in your minds the biggest threat that we will be facing regarding social license to operate in the near future? And what can we do to prevent negative discussion about our use of the Icelandic horse? So Bjarni has already pointed out maybe using all the tourist videos and putting up a good image, but what more? What are we doing maybe in our daily lives or could be doing there? And what are our threats? Who wants to start here? Any hands up? Hulda, you go for it. Sorry, was Atli already starting? I didn't see any hands, so I just threw the ball to Hulda here. Go ahead.
Shall I or Atli?
Oh, Atli has his hand up now. Well, shall we do?
Ladies first.
Ladies first, Hulda, go for it.
This is a big, very, very big question, and what we can do. Of course, we have to keep our like we have addressed in this sequence of lectures, and also the talk this evening is research. We also, of course, have to handle our horses well and keep the eye on that. I mean. And that is also a tool that can go both ways. I know from the vets in Iceland that today actually overfeeding is becoming almost a bigger problem than underfeeding. So the golden middle way there is also not so easy to track. But I mean, this isn't a easy task, and this is not a thing that we solve on one evening, but exactly a conference like this is the beginning of all this, and hopefully not, silencing down after an evening or evenings like these previous evenings, but getting into the discussion, and that, I mean, that just people are aware of the phrase social license to operate. This was new to me a year ago, and I think that is just this phrase in its own is a good thing for everybody to think about, and to get and think about what actions can I do myself, my farm, my company, my colleagues, my writing students, my customers. And so on. So I don't have the magic answer, but I think it is more like many small things, and to open up the discussion.
Thank you, Hulda. Atli, go ahead.
Education and research. That's the main thing that we can give answers about, that the horse can carry, that the horse is feeling comfortable, that people are feeling comfortable about it, and so on. And then I think the competition, part of this social license to operate is that there's cameras everywhere. There is pictures everywhere. There are people taking pictures of pain faces. I think that most important that we got a good look on this. That it's not the excited horses that feels comfortable. That has to be the main issue of sport riding next years. That we see a little bit. There's nothing wrong with it. There's a little bit, but if there's a bad picture taken on a excited horse with a white in his eye and so on, I think we have to have a question in our mind, all people, horse people, all judges, how does the horse feel about this? Is this okay? Or it doesn't have to be super happy, but if he's really bothered by it, then we should ask this question, is it correctly or not? So I think excitement, this is getting better. This is absolutely getting better. This has been changing over 10, 20 years. This big part of it is a wrong valuation of willingness in 20 years. That's one of the big reasons why we are here. But that is getting better now. Last 10 years, this is getting better, luckily. And we just have to continue on this way. Excitement, uncomfortable horses is a bad image. Thanks.
Thank you, Atli. Bjarni, you wanted to add on? Might need to put the mic on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't actually see any big threats right at the moment regarding the social license to operate. I would like to go back 20, 30 years in general and the improvements on every aspect of the horsemanship has improved so much. And we are on a so good journey in general. So we just got to keep on and keep our eyes open and react together if we hear some like may say stupid criticism, you know, like uninformed criticism about things. I would say, so another question there that I want to connect to this, there's something about the gray areas you see in the environment. That is kind of more close to it. Where are the gray areas, not like threats, but
here I can read the question exactly.
Yeah.
Thelma Harðardóttir from Iceland. She's wondering about the gray areas of the sport. What would you consider to be those gray areas in your opinion? And in what aspect of our culture or style might we need to reconsider in the light of social license to operate? So it's a bit also about like, are there any studies there that we've learned about perhaps that have opened our eyes and call for actions of change?
Yeah, well, came to my mind, not maybe sport related, except of course I look at my endurance rides as sport also, and the gray areas in my area are actually like everywhere else. It's the edges. It's the like in sport, it must be the most intense competitions where you put the most effort on the competition horses. And this gray area is also in my area on the riding tours. It's the long, demanding tours that we are afraid those that are there. We are not many left that are going like on really long, challenging riding tours in the highlands of Iceland, and this means the legacy will maybe disappear, and that means just that if nobody holds it up, you know, then it's not maybe not accepted anymore. So we got to keep it up, and there was it came to my mind because a couple of years ago there was a endurance race in Iceland that has been held now 2 or 3 times since, and then came the discussion even from within the horse society of Iceland. It was way too much effort put on the horses, and this was just said like that, and it was in the radio, pretty big media issue about it. So this was also in general a threat to that specific topic, the endurance race. And as well on these longer trail rides in Iceland. All the resources we saw, especially what Guðrún was referring to, show us how amazing the horse is and especially fit for long distance running. And we that like to keep this up, we gotta be careful. We gotta be informative and inform, and like this, put a lot of pictures and videos and show everybody it is okay. The horses are good, and they are also good for it because they are specially trained for it. It's okay that a horse owner, hobby rider, takes his horse for a 5-day trip and thinks it's really enough to ride 25 kilometers a day. That's way more than enough or so. But the horses we take for these extreme tours and trails, they are super fit. They are specially trained for this, and that people must have that in mind. This is same with these kind of horses as normal sport horses. You don't take any average horse to a top level competition sports, and this is the same when you go for these extreme long trail rides. You need to train your horse especially for it. And this is will possibly be some kind of gray area, I think, in the future.
Thank you, Bjarni. Exactly. We do need to, be careful that we keep up old traditions as well as just the options to do these wonderful things that we have been doing for centuries. Because, time changes. What does Systa say? Sigríður.
Yes, thank you. As I see it, the use of horses in competition, particular even breeding shows, and all commercial, for all commercial purposes, will always be, the threat will always be there, because people tolerate, there is much more tolerance for keeping horses as companions, although it's not better for the horse, because it isn't all about that. But and it's therefore I've been talking the most about competition tonight. It's not because that I in person have them, that they are more valuable in my mind. It is just because I feel that the threat is there, and I feel it is very, very important that we cope with it now, preventive, because as Atli said, you don't have to look at it for a very long time and to see the horse's opinion. They are not all very comfortable, and we see this, and we have to figure much better out if there are problems there or not. Something that we are doing there is very good. It's very excellent. I'm not talking it down in total, far away. But we have to be more critical, however. And we have mentioned most of the important things today. We have to listen to the horses. And they are telling us something there. I'm quite sure. What I'm personally I'm going to do with it, I will work on analyzing data that I have and try to publish it and try to go on with the discussion. Participate in discussion wherever it is possible, and because that's the only thing we can do. Thanks.
Thank you, Sigríður. There are several more questions here, actually. I do realize the time, so we won't be able to maybe go through all of them, but we'll take a few more, right? We're all just enthusiastic about this, but I did promise that you would get to bed eventually, so we won't stay up all night, although I know we could. There are actually, I'm going to just come together here. There are a few comments and questions that come from kind of different people, but are actually like in, there's Undina, Telma, Armet, yeah, they're basically also talking about like other factors in the horse's welfare and well-being. So what use is, for instance, to have a great breeding system that breeds a fantastic riding horse that can carry us well, that can move fantastically, but then we might be neglecting some fundamental needs of the horse. For instance, long hours in the stall, in the stables every day, maybe too long hoofs, not feeding often enough. You know, they, by nature, they should be feeding most of the day, really. Yeah, just maybe not having enough companionship, etc. What are your thoughts about that? Are we going backwards, perhaps, in some of these issues, and which ones there? And what do we need to do in order to make sure that our horses have the best both welfare and well-being in the future, as well as right now? Who wants to take this away? Any hands up? Atli, you have the A name. You are just destined to start.
Okay, good question. Really good question. What we don't evaluate, we don't have any knowledge about. We don't know anything about it, or exactly if we take something for granted, that the horse is so. It's like the story is about the Arabian horse, 70s, that he was the best horse in the world, the 60s to 70s. And he was so good that they only evaluate his exterior, only his outlook, didn't look anything at the how fast he was going, how long distance he can make, and so on. Didn't evaluate that, because that was a sure thing. and then the European people bought them, and now this, I don't hope I don't say anything stupid now, but there is, they did actually think that the most beautiful horses were standing with open eyes and look alive, and they were a little bit stretched horses, and a couple of decades later he was a stretched horse and known as a not so good horse anymore, at least the Arabian horse in Europe. The story is what we don't value. We don't have any about how strong the horse is, how long distance can he make. If we take that for granted, we can easily lose it. So my answer is, if there is some quality in the horse, we have to measure it and continue breed it. Carrying adults, then we have to measure that. Is he really good at that still, or fast in pace, or temperament, whatever it is? So that's also these things that they were saying. If we don't value that, is the horse capable of being in the stall 23.5 hours a day and half an hour out in a small paddock? Okay, we breed such a horse that the temperament is capable of doing that. Then, if that is what we want to value, understand me. Thank you.
Thank you, Atli. Sigríður, I know there are no hands up, but I'm going to force you to talk about this.
Yes. We have to think about all those things, and the development to the better or the worse. There's one thing developing definitely to the worse, and that is the overfeeding of the horses, and most likely also too little exercise, because ending up in a very painful situation. We're starting to lose far too many horses out of that. Number two, I would say, yes, for how long time we keep the horses in the stable and keep it as normal, it is not good. It is, however, it's a long tradition for doing it. Think about it. You have been reflecting some years back, and it's unbelievable how people have kept horses. But I would absolutely like to increase the possibilities for horse to have more possibilities of free movements every day. So and going out from one box to another little paddock. I mean, they need movements. They need to play. They need other horses. It's very, very important for them. And they need more movements. Many horses, more motion, more, and then they can be allowed to eat a little bit more, and all those things. So. Yes, there are. Unfortunately, they're kept in many horses in very beautiful stables, but kept in there. And I think we can improve so much in many things. But yes, don't forget that the horses, they love to run. They also love to be trained. That is, I mean, everybody that is into it have understood that the horses, they love to be trained if they are kept at stable. And so, yes, I think we also need to work on this to keep more information on this. Don't forget what the horse is about, what kind of animal is it. And I'm very happy that has been taken very strongly here in this seminar. So absolutely, we should think about that, the daily life of our horses.
Thank you, Systa. I remember actually 2.5 years ago, we had another similar virtual seminar And there, Dr. Andrew McLean, a behavior scientist, was specifically talking about how we are so used to this notion of horses being stabled. And we are so focused on nobody having a scratch or an injury of any kind that we try to separate them and making sure that they, by all means, do not come together because they might injure themselves. Specifically when you're talking about high profile, expensive show horses in various different disciplines. And I remember him stressing, maybe we need to find a way to teach both horse people, but also the regular public now, talking about social license to operate, because imagine, that it's okay sometimes to maybe have a bit of a scratch and possibly they're playing a bit rough and they might get a bit of a blood stain here or there. I had, for instance, a grey horse that was a bit of a rough player. Well, actually, the other one he played more with, and grey horse, a little bit of a blood somewhere was distributed all around the place. And then you get guests here. We have Airbnb, and somebody was completely in shock that they saw some grey horse there that was covered in blood. And I ran out and thought, my horse is dying. But it wasn't really that bad at all. So I just wanted to get, maybe Hulda want to reflect on how can we get our competition horses specifically, or those really high profile stallions, etc., the best possible quality of life as well. How can we ensure that?
Oh my God, we are doing our best in this the whole time, having 20 stallions in my stable of all kind, and many high profile stallions, and which come out every day, and they are trained most days, and this is not an easy discussion in a country with a weather like Iceland, as we know, and those people who don't live in Iceland, that they have these open stables a lot in all over Europe, where the horses can be in a herd, they can walk inside, they can walk outside, and then they take them and ride them and just put them out again. And if the horse is cold, it goes inside and then outside. We cannot do this here in Iceland. If we decide to train the horse, we have to keep it under a roof. And so this is not an easy task to keep horse in a group where it belongs, and then again and outside in a lot of movement, and then at the same time training it in the harsh months. So it would be for us in Iceland just not possible to train horses during the cold months. We could start maybe in April when we could start to do this, like in and outside. But of course we have these extreme. When I was starting to ride as a young girl in Kópavogur, in Gustur, the horses stood tied up in a stall, and they were fed once a day. Today we find this impossible, and then they came out for an hour a day or maybe two, and then again tied up. Today we find this almost unimaginable, but we have come some way. But we of course we have to keep thinking about exactly these things and not isolating the horses too much, but putting two stallions together on a paddock for playing, that might not go. So a little scratch is not so bad, but these are not so easy things to handle in the best way. You can't put them in a herd of mares every day or whatever. This is not an easy discussion, but I think all of us are trying to do the best for our horses, and we will have them also run outside, not always riding them. We take them on these, where they can run freely, and we put them outside. But we also notice we put our horses outside after being ridden. If it's minus 10 degrees and windy or even snowy or rainy, the horses stand at the fence and ask, "Hello, come, save me, please." And they come running when we come picking them up. They don't run away. They come to us because they don't like this weather. So they are also a little bit pampered. And that's, of course, our fault. I don't have the feeling that the horses in my stable, even standing in many hours a day, that they don't like it or they are feeling well. They are calm when they are inside. They play outside and are being trained. Yeah, so I think we are doing our best, and this is what is accepted today. I mean, in 20 years we might have a new situation and find this unimaginable what we are doing today. But yeah, this is our situation as we stand. But I just wanted to mention one little thing that I saw here on the chat as well from Alexandra Montan-Gray, that is also getting a problem in many countries, that is this humanizing of horses, to assume that your horse is human and thinking as you, and making plans and just thinking like a person, and that isn't the case. We have to learn to think as animals and try to put us in their shoes and not to pamper them as. I think it was in Sven's lecture, or I saw it somewhere on social media today or some days ago, that it was a horse with 3 blankets, and the other horse asked him, why do you have so many blankets? And then the horse says, my owner is cold.
That was in Sven's lecture.
We have those, extreme situation in all ways, but I think we have to mean well when we have to try to think like horses and act like it, and then see where it brings us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Couple of more things here. In what field, if at all, do you believe our Icelandic horse culture might possibly be doing better regarding horse welfare and well-being than some other horse disciplines or cultures? And the B part of that question maybe, is there a difference in horse welfare and well-being in Iceland compared to other parts in the world within the Icelandic horse sector maybe as well? And what then? Is there somebody that wants to grab that ball?
Just one comment on that ball. I mean, we are all living and working in Iceland. We would almost need you to answer that for living in Ireland. I've lived in Germany for a few years, but Sista has a comment on this.
Excellent. Sigríður, take it away.
Only country in the world that we do not allow that horses are kept alone in our legislation. And as I know, we are the only country. And I'm very proud of that.
That is absolutely fantastic. And I keep telling people here in Ireland about that. I think somebody told me it's also at least in the EU laws in some countries, but it's not always implemented. Certainly not here in Ireland. It's way too common to see them alone. It's absolutely, yeah, very good point. From my own experience, just simply, I find that Icelandic horses in general are not kept alone, and they usually have maybe more time outside often. And even in Iceland, where they're kept in stables for a part of the winter, at least when they're in high training, they still are outside quite a lot on other part of the year. But anybody else wants to comment on that? What do you say, Elsa? You've been judging as well in many different countries. It's good to have the microphone on.
If I address the situation here in Iceland, at least, I mean, we have not too positive environment, I think, in the stable arena in Iceland, where we don't have any access putting our horses outside of the paddock, for example, and the paddocks are really small. And why do the horses want to come in? Because they get to eat most of the time. So it's not because they want to come in, it's just because they don't want to be outside without feed, I think. I know a lot of situation in Sweden, where horses are kept out like for 12 or 15 hours a day in muddy paddocks with blankets on. That's not much better. So I think we have to, either or is not the best situation. And that is, I have read through some of the comments, and there's some misinterpretation in what is breeding, for example, and just within this group, for example, that we emphasize so much on high movements of the horse. We don't do that. Just read the breeding goal of each trait. That is really good to do before we start to criticize. But for breeding as such, I mean, we have to come to this agreement. What is okay for the horses? And then based on the breeding, we are breeding some characters in our breed that are suitable with the environments we are giving them. That is actually that. And I mean, for example, for the character of the horse, I mean, that is both breeding and that is a lot of training. But for example, the criticism, for example, on how we are judging spirit or character and willingness, we have to just appoint the fact that there are same stallions that are the best stallions for breeding horses that are doing well at the breeding track, doing well at the sport competition track, and doing really well in the long trails or the tracking for Bjarni. These are the same genetics. We don't have a split population. The population of the Icelandic horse is as a whole, but we just point out different roles, and that is to say we don't want to split the population into different groups. We want to have the same population that just are fitted for different roles. And then we also have the same thing about the genetics, and they're addressing again this hideous thing I said, sky is the limit. I mean, we have certain genes that are controlling characters of the horse that are fitted to our roles. And I think we have to go into genomic mapping of those characters that are really, that the horse that we are breeding and producing are comfortable with the environment that we think is okay for the horse, acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, actually, absolutely. And just to comment on that again, I also understood sky is the limit, like Hulda said before. It is about the education, and this, I think it's so incredibly important as well that people realize how close we are to actually select even genetic opponents, like certain little parts that certain genes or parts of genes can actually decide. Like it's a huge new world that might be opening up for us in this. So yeah, I think sky is the limit there, right? It is incredible what could possibly come out there. Sister Sigríður.
I just want to mention one more thing that I think we have as a very positive thing in our horse management, and it's the ability or the tradition to give at least kind of usual riding horses a longer rest. To keep them free roaming then, and in non-cultivated areas where they are allowed to eat as they have nature to, and we can still regulate their weight and regulate their metabolism, because it's in the autumn is not that much energy in this vegetation outside. And if I compare, if I have a kind of a little bit too heavy horse and keep it inside, and I have to limit the feeding, and compared to the horse that is free roaming, working all the day, finding a little bit here, a little bit there, and can be allowed to eat that because it's still not that very much. my feeling is a huge difference of welfare. So I think this is one of the positive things. But horses get used to very much. I have to say that. And we move them from the most extreme free life into the stable one day. And I think it's a huge shock for them. And but then they start to get used to it and start to love their trainers and start to want to be trained. Some few come running themselves into this first training. And so I think we should work on this a little bit more and also provide more information and how we can evaluate how the horses are feeling. But on the other hand, we also have stables with a lot of this behavior, this what do you call it? That they are not coping with it, stereotypic behaviors, and that is not a good thing to see, but we see it occasionally here in the stables, and so we have to also there keep our eyes open, try to understand their horses, if they accept it or not, if they are good or not, and most of them will, however, start to accept more and more and more, and we cannot let that go so far either. But I totally agree. It doesn't do so much for the horses to go from one box to another little paddock with only stones. I mean, they want to have something to eat. They want to have something to look for. To make their life interesting. So we can be much better on that in total. But some positive traditions we have though. I will leave it with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sigríður. Just that reminded me as well of that really interesting research about the stomach ulcers that Undina was talking about as well, where it seemed like the ulcers were actually getting less common or improving as the weeks went by in the stable compared to when they had just recently brought in the young horses. Super interesting to hear also more about how that goes on. But things like that, how we measure horses, maybe stress level, well-being, then on the other side, also will give us simply better understanding of, you know, what we are maybe dealing with. Maybe like came in several of the lectures, we're not always that great at analyzing those signals that the horses might be telling us. And they are very tuned into maybe sending signals that we just need to learn better to understand, I believe. Just one thing here at the end, I believe we need to start to think about finishing this. From Þórarinn Eymundsson wants to ask the panel what kind of changes they would like to see in the way the horses are presented in the track, that is in the breeding and breeding assessments as well as competition. So we are already implementing breaks, for instance, etc. And just combining it with another question here, if the judging systems, that is sport, gæðinga breeding and racing even, are they following normal physical and psychological development of the horses? Or are we possibly demanding too much too early sometimes? I mean, there is a 4-year-old limit, of course, for the breeding, but 5-year-old in most of the sport. We know that the horse is developing further on. Like, some thoughts maybe about that from somebody? Any changes that you would like to see in sport, Hulda, for instance?
Changes in sport, yes, of course there are. FEIF is actually listening when it comes to social license to operate, to critics on good riding, and I think the focus of FEIF is a lot on how can we keep our sport horse friendly enough, and we have to educate both riders and judges to react on what we don't think is acceptable as a riding style. And in my opinion, we can do better there. But we are working on it. It is being worked on. But in commonly, and I have to say the breeding is a little bit on the same place here. They also could do a little bit better in letting the audience know when something is not accepted, rough riding with young horses or older horses. I think all the riding in general, we can do better in many places. We also have to think about our big finals like T1, like Biflokkur, which I consider the hardest ones, and a breeding show is also quite hard on the horses. So I think we have to just stay awake and be aware of those things. And I think at the moment the rough riding thing and pulling the reins at the inappropriate force and times, that is a thing we should be thinking more about.
Thank you. I think Þórunn was talking about kind of the systems as well, not just the riding, but yeah, you came into that a little bit as well.
Yeah, that is part of the same thing actually. The system, what the judges, the riders are part of a system, and we have to. Yeah, we don't change one part without changing the other. This one thing follows the other.
Absolutely. Sister, you have your hand up.
Yes, that was on purpose, yes. And I was just thinking about, yes, there is this break in the T1, which is very good because the horses need it. They need to pay their oxygen yield. And if the horses are really meant to prostate in anaerobic metabolism, then we need breaks. Mm-hmm. That is, so we have to choose either to change this into anaerobic, or we have to put in breaks. That is my opinion. Otherwise, we will get too tired horses with too many problems.
Can I just ask there, sorry, I know there are more hands up, but just so that we understand correctly. So when you were talking about the horses sometimes might not be able to breathe properly in particular shape. There was also a question there from Lisi in Nova Scotia. Are we talking about just as soon as they are behind the vertical or in the vertical, or can you not actually say anything specific about that and it is more individual?
No,
what do we need in order to know this?
This is individual, but we actually know that now, that they are part of the horses at least, are working pretty in anaerobic metabolism. They can't do that for a long time until they experience fatigue and it starts to be load on the structures in the limbs. So we have to find more out about it, understand it better, I think. But we have some signs that they are hard breathing. we can see that, and so we have a lot of indications. So I think this is a thing that we should keep in mind for the future. How they should be working there.
And is it like a endoscope, or how do you actually see or analyze?
That is for research, but that would be a very nice to. Then we could probably find out what kind of head and neck position is acceptable for the Icelandic horse and for the general anatomy there, and what is training. And it is a matter of training, because a better trained horse can have a different head and neck position compared to untrained. So it is a combination of anatomy and training, and but also what we want to do. So it's very much about understanding this. Are the horses struggling, and then we can improve it. We don't have to. I mean, it will not destroy the sport, although we manage to improve things a little bit, step by step.
Oh, exactly, and that's why we're trying to do this. Exactly, increase the knowledge. Thank you, Atli.
Yeah, I was when you think about what is in a gray area in the sport, I think about three things. We all know about this difficult competition, and there's nothing wrong with difficult competition. Tölt finals are difficult. It's difficult for horses. Probably Hulda and Sigga remembers when BF-flokks finals were on, the fast tölt was on the straight track. Remember that? They 1-1? Don't you remember that, Sigga? Okay, once upon a time, finals in B-flokk was they did right tölt and trot in the oval track, and the fast tölt was on the pace track, just 1-1, just like they go in pace. And the reason why they took that out was that fast toss is not supposed to be a race gate. But they put it on the oval track, and then it became a race.
Good point.
Really a race, yeah.
What year are we talking about?
It had the opposite effect. Totally stupid, okay? You can think about that. Once upon a time, we did it that way. It became this by doing that, okay? Then, I'm not saying I'm fighting dinosaur, maybe. But and then the other thing is there is sometimes I'm a big fan of the competition. I love to compete in it myself, and I'm probably no angel in it that pays out of the boxes. There is sometimes I don't feel so good about the riding, and we have to be more strict about it. It's simple. I looked at the competition last spring, and I said I was going to join a competition, and I looked at it and said, oh my God, we have to fix this before somebody fix this for us. So this is my opinion. We have to put a real effort in. I understand that there are young people with big ambition and get excited and so on, but we have to be a little bit fatherly. We older and say, hey, take care of this. This is not nice. And they're not doing your bad thinking. And then there is one other thing. There's three things about the competition. Is that I think is in a gray area. This you see the finals in tölt, fast tölt. They've been doing slow tölt both rein, BJC both reins, fast tölt one leg, and you see a lot of tired horses, and nobody's going fast anymore. But one horse goes past the others because he's a little bit stronger than the others, and you see boom, 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 boom because they are getting tired. This is not fun to see, but the audience is crazy because they got past it. What is it? It's a race. It's not a tölt competition. And this boxes, think about it. Sometimes if you only think about who did go in pace and you just look at that, if you look at it differently and say, how did the horse actually feel about it, then you can get a little pain. And then there is one other thing, I probably get couple of people angry about this, but it has been my opinion for many, many years. And it's probably strange that it comes out of my mouth because this is the competition I've been competing in most in my life, and that is 5K. And that is pace on the oval track. Pace on the oval track. Why do we compete in pace and the oval track? What I've heard is that on Gietenberg in the first World Championship or the European Championship, there wasn't not enough land to have a race on a straight track. Then we have it on an oval track, and we still have it on the oval track. Oval track, it is difficult for horses to go pace there properly, and you don't often see it super good. You see it, it's okay. I've trained many horses to do this, and similar for them all, don't do it too much, because then they start to go slower. They start to be a little bit afraid of the corners. They start to say, no, I actually don't like it. Okay, I try to do it as little as possible, but you have to do it on Saturday again, blah, 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 blah. So welfare, this is on a gray area, absolutely on a gray area. Okay?
Very good points. Thank you so much, Atli. Yes, and talking about as well, we are certainly having bigger horses, like they have been growing. The average horses coming to breeding shows certainly have been growing a fair bit. They have longer legs, meaning also they're taking bigger strides. Our oval tracks are still 250 meters. They're not bigger, actually, in most cases. Maybe if we are going to continue pacing in an oval track, those really big, long-stepping horses, it's not getting easier anyway. Hulda.
The oval track has got bigger. It was 200 meters and it's now 250. But I agree to many things that Atli said. But actually, I would like Sister actually to hear what I have to say, because I'm so happy that she is happy about the breaks, because they are my idea. And they started because I, as a rider, was also speaking, and I knew for both sides how it was to be in this track with this my best horse, which was getting very, very tired. And I thought, talked to the chief judge and said, let's make a break. Is that okay? And the chief judge, I don't remember who it was, said okay. And everybody was happy with it. And then we put it into rules and also in B-Flokkur and then took it to 5. This was first just in Iceland, then we took it to 5. So some good things we've gone through, but I think I don't want to mix into the program here, Disa, but I think it's getting really, really late.
This was our last discussion topic, so that's exactly very true.
If I can come out with some point here.
Absolutely. Well said.
At the breeding field test, we have at least, I think we can do much better. And taking off on rough riding, we have a little bit strict rules that are outlying the riders if they get too many faults in that. And we have this thin line between, we are assessing the performance of the horse and not the riding, but still we have to take on rough riding. And I think we can do much better there. But luckily, we have at least now developed the latest development in 2020, then we actually put into that the horse should not, for example, be in a vertical line with a nose. It should be an open one. This was a point taken from Sista, for example. And then that the horse should go down to walk when they were turning around, so that they wouldn't be turned around really fast. And both giving the horse time to take breath and then also avoiding more rough riding. And then also diminishing the track length and making difference between the 4-year-old and other ones. I think we should go further with this with a 5-year-old, if I would be asked, and just make the same different length of tracks, and then also like the latest development in the threshold for the slow tult and the faster tult, that the same applies for the 4-year-old and 5-year-old. These are really young horses, and we want the horse to be young to show up. not to get the highest points, but just to show up. And that is also a point that I want to make my last. This new trait in the BLOP, attendance. This is actually taking the weight from difference between 8.10, 7.80 or something like that. Just showing up at the breathing field assessment, you get rather good BLOP. You get rather good genetic valuation because it doesn't make so much difference between the 7.80 and 8.10. It's just that you showed up. And I think we really have to reconsider the rules about taking, for example, horses into landsmót, that we don't make the same. Now we just have this number of horses in each and every classes, and this shouldn't apply the same for 4-year-old as for 5-year-old, because then they are coming again and again and again just to be able to attain landsmót because they are fabulous horses, but then they go out on 1 or 0.1 comma. This shouldn't be the issue here. We just want the greatest horses to be there. And we should be able to put the threshold if we have good compared judgment that we are aiming for today. Better judgment, more coherent judgment. So that was my last word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elsa. Few last words, maybe Systa and Bjarni, if you want.
No, I have started to repeat myself, so I have finished.
Very good. What about you, Bjarni? Do you want to get some last words in? Is there something in your discipline that you see in the future that we should maybe improve, or you're already working on improving? The mic is not on.
Yeah, surely we can improve in a lot of things, and it's been interesting now, especially these last comments here about the sports. Particularly, I would like, it's getting late, but I would like to end also. I have one thing to mention a little bit, came to my mind through the connected to the promotions and your question about energy of trail horses. I have to stay there, you know. You are all talking about sports all the time, so I keep I stay at my my area. And it is this lactate threshold that Systa is also talking about in competition horses. And when you say the energy of tolting for a long time on a moderately good speed, this is actually what was also interesting for me to see in the information from both Guðrún and I think Mike was also with this in. That the lactate threshold is about this 4 millimole. It means like about 10 kilometers per hour ride, and we are actually riding all the time this way. And this is not just something I found out. This is how it has been through the centuries. That's how travelers did ride, because they rode at the speed that they figured out the horse could go on. And this is just exactly below the lactate threshold, according to this science. And this is very interesting. And that's how, also with training, this threshold rises a bit. So you ride with me in September this morning mainly, and then they are in the very best shape, you know. So the threshold is even higher. So we can ride faster and longer without them getting tired, actually. And the same was another scientific, from the science, was this glycogen restorers takes 1 or 2 days. This is also what we do on these long, hard trails. We take in between minimum 2 days break. This is also no new science. This is just the experience from the past. Well, this is new science, but it's also how, this is exactly what you feel also. This is the time they need to, you feel when you get going again, you feel them really restored. You often don't feel the same power when you have just a 1-day break. Then it's more like going out the next day after, you know, another. but with 2 or 3 days break, the horses are like new. So this was very interesting for me. And anyway, just make this my last comments here. And thank you all. It's been very interesting and nice to be with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you. The time has just gone so quickly. I am sorry to keep you that long. We have discussed so much and gone deep and far. And of course, we could continue all night, but this will have to do. These 5 evenings have been so inspiring, and at least I feel like I've learned so much throughout this whole procedure. We have Mette Manseth, the leader of the education committee in Iceland, as well as, of course, Hólar instructor and breeder of the year several times, and yeah, simply a fantastically well-educated and known person here in our Icelandic horse community. Welcome, Mette. Can you say a few words here at the end to us?
Yeah, I want to first of all thank our panel for being so brave, showing up here tonight in front of all these people and giving us all this of their experience and knowledge. I thought it was really, really great, and also to hear some different opinions. I thought it was refreshing that people are also correcting each other a little bit, and so this was very interesting. And I think this whole thing for me has been very interesting. I've learned a lot on this last days or this last 2 weeks, and I think we are doing some things. And actually, the Icelandic horse community has been rather quick. For example, to start with a noseband guard that was actually scientifically to measure nosebands. That we started, I don't remember, 2017 on the World Championship or something. That was quite new. That was really, that was based on science, how loose the noseband should be. And this is just a very simple piece, but it's for the welfare of the horse. So we can do things like that, and we are doing. And in general, I would say that the social license to operate thing is a very, as we feel now, because the reason why we have learned so much is because we digged into it. So I see it as a great opportunity to learn more and to try to do better. I think this will be, in the end, it will be very good for our horses that we did get this question. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mette. I just want to add on here from Þórir in Iceland. He wants to recommend that we create a multidisciplinary committee that will have the purpose to find the gray areas and discuss them and ask for better guidelines, resources, and education. Maybe to-do list, like Trausti Þór actually mentioned here in one of the comments as well. I think it's a great idea. Let's do it. How about it? Who's going to take it on? We'll talk about that another time, but I want to say thank you all so much for your contribution. Professor Michael Weishaupt, Dr. Marie Rodin, Dr. Guðrún Stefánsdóttir, and Professor Sveinn Ragnarsson, the 4 speakers, and obviously to all you fantastic panel people. You've been amazing tonight, and I am sure we'll all just leave here with full brain of new ideas, thoughts, and light bulbs. And just so heartfelt thank you as well to all you who were our guests, who were contributing to the seminar. Without you, there would be no seminar. So this is, of course, something that can be done if we have participants and the enthusiasm and people that want to take part. So thank you again. I want to just remind you as well, we have still 4 weeks to rewatch all of these recordings. You will get a closed Vimeo link again for the recording of this particular almost 3-hour-long session here. And I recommend that you rewatch it again and again as often as you possibly can and spread the information. There is so much food for thought, and I just think this is something so valuable. Just to remind you as well, there is that interesting survey that FEIF is in cooperation with some others. That is a link here on the chat. Please participate. It's very valuable to have all these different science studies done, and this is one aspect of it. There are a few more seminars coming up. FEIF education seminar in Sweden about middle of October. You can see this information as well on the FEIF website. There is also a farrier seminar Michael Weishaupt mentioned in August in Iceland this year, and several other things that for us curious minds, there is always something to keep us busy. Anyway, thank you so much again. Atli, Elsa, Sista, Hulda, Bjarni, and of course Mette, and Berglind, who is our host and working for Horses of Iceland. With that, I say good night and happy horse-filled months to come. Thank you so much.
Tack för mig.
Tack, god natt.
God natt.
Tack, tack.
God natt.
God natt.